I'm so hot right now, guys.
In there.
Just take off your shirt if you
Hours.
need to.
Yeah.
It's fine. But we can
Looks
barely
like
see
See your
the top.
bra.
We
Your
can only see the
bra.
top.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with no reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
Thank you for taking a seat at the table. Tonight we are recapping our Momcation round 2. We recently all got back from the Care for the Caregiver retreat with Kate Swenson. Tonight at the table, I have Kim McIsaac.
Hello.
Jen Dunn.
Hi, everyone.
Tabitha Cabrera.
Hello.
And Jamie Ramos.
Hello.
And I am Rachel Flanagan. Okay, so let's see what a week we've had. You guys, I'm just so grateful to be home and to have such a great experience for both our podcast and just like all of us. We killed it last week. I just think it's so cool to not be worrying about it, to not be living in like craziness of it, but to be home and just have done such great work together. I'm so proud to be a table for fiver, ladies.
We really did. That was great.
I laughed when you said you're happy to be home. I'm like, well, your commute was hard, but you had more bags and stuff to carry. Your trunk was so full.
God dang.
I've never seen so many things coming. Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful that I brought less home than I brought to the retreat. There was lots of baskets, lots of gifts.
Wish I could say the same thing. Wish I could say the same thing. Our luggage was 56 pounds, people. So,
oh my God. Like we will get through this whole trip, but I just want to let our viewers on the cliffs, the edge of their seats know that the McIsaacs did go overweight on the way
But it
home.
wasn't your fault this time, right?
This is the thing.
It was not my fault.
It was Neil
McIsaac
did
was.
it.
Yeah, while we were taking photos, he was shopping at Lowe's, Harbor Freight, and Savers, and he bought some tools while he was in Minnesota.
So I was saying, just to really jump back to the beginning, you guys, I was saying that I listened to the Momcation first episode just today as a little refresh. And what struck me was that we were so apprehensive and just so anxious. And we were so worried about so many different things. I mean, what if we weren't who we said we were? Catfish style, and also where would we going and how would we get there and what would we wear? And this time we just arrived like a bunch of on a mission, and I'm just like, we just killed it. Thrilled
really.
We knew the hotel. We walked it. We knew.
Yeah. We did. We knew the layout. We'd been there before.
Yeah.
We did a lot of prep work. I mean, there's so many months of prep work for that weekend for us.
Mostly
we didn't know.
So let's tell our listeners the whole lowdown, because we have a bunch of people that listen to us frequently that we met, which was incredible. But we have a lot of listeners that were not able to make the pilgrimage to Minnesota. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Kate Swenson from Finding Cooper's Voice, a dear friend of ours that everyone knows, has a foundation called the More Than Project. And together, her and Amanda have kind of begun to throw these amazing retreats for their followers and caregivers to sort of keep people inspired, motivated, and connected. And this year we had the opportunity to host parts. And I mean, that's kind of the lowdown, right?
Yeah.
The speakers that were at this year's event were awesome. We had the opportunity before we left, which our listeners have heard, to talk to Adrienne Wood and also to Lori Helmet and Lisa Candera. Just what a great time.
Yeah. It was a whirlwind. I mean, that weekend was back to back to back to back for us. I feel like the difference between last year and this year was last year we were attendees, and so it felt like we got to make like really significant connections with people while we were there. Like we had time to kind of chat and learn about them. And I feel like this year was good, but different for us as far as like preparing for it. And then we were just running the whole time. There was no downtime.
And last year we just had the event on Sunday, and then the short event on Saturday night. And we came in on Thursday. Most of us came in on Friday. And this year it was like we had stuff Friday all day, and Saturday went from 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's like what we were helping out with. And then I think by Sunday, I don't even know if we were alive.
I know.
Yeah, last year was much more. Last year was like a brunch. This year was a retreat. Like it was just more of a.
I think I'm the odd one out. Not that and no one at this table, I don't mean like that. But a lot of people, that's a long day for a lot of people. I love those kind of days where it's kind of like hops from one kind of person to the next. We had the breakouts, and because we got to interview people, I think that's actually why I enjoyed it so much, more than maybe if I was just sitting in the audience, because we got to recap it after with the speakers, the presenters. I thought that was like one of my favorite things of the whole weekend.
I
Was
loved that
interviewing
too.
the speakers after. I loved doing that.
Well, I think Saturday just overall, I think it like for everyone, it was like really fulfilling because you got different people's point of views. You heard from a lot of speakers. And I would say it feels like a packed day, but there was a lot of breaks and time in between time to chat and people. And that's what I was going to say too about how Taz was talking about. Like last year we were like we were participants, and this year we were like presenting. So it was like more pressure, anxiety, prep, all that stuff. But it was kind of cool because Rach said on our recap with Amanda, she was talking about how someone said to her, go a couple years and then give someone else a chance to go because there's only so many slots. It was kind of like that for us this year where we got to watch other people make connections. Like
Yeah.
just talking about like I would get to talk to someone like really quickly, and then I would have to run off and do something, and that person was on their own, they came by themselves, and then I would see like a couple hours later they had connected with someone and they were like hanging out with that person the rest of the weekend, and I was like, this is so odd. Like it was so cool to see that, even though I couldn't necessarily make all those connections as much as I wish I could have myself, but it was cool to see other people do that and to be part of facilitating that.
Yeah, that was neat.
And I think too, part of that like pressure and feeling was because we didn't know how it was going to go with like all the recording and all the equipment and how the room was, how we were going to change over the room, and like all of that stuff was kind of packed into those breaks that other people were like chilling and connecting with each other.
And we were hungry.
Yeah, we were starving. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that it had like a different feel for us. I mean, like this year, I wish I could have talked to more people. I wish I could have made more connections with other moms that I relate to. But the flip side of that is that we did all these cool, amazing things all weekend long. And I think it was just a different feel than the first year was.
Well, and I think the really cool thing is that we went last year, and obviously we've met each other. We've gotten to know Amanda better. We've gotten to know Kate better. So like those relationships we have built, we got to expand on those. 5 crazy friends who decided to start a podcast together who don't understand anything about technology. Like, doing one in person and logistically figuring that out without killing each other. Like I will say overall, there were some times we got like, we're all strong women here. We bicker sometimes, but it was never like we came in prepared, and we prepared like a live podcast and presented in front of people. Rachel and Kimmy figured out how to do the whole game and how the room should be. I somehow figured out how to record it, which was really my husband having me bring one cord and hoping that it worked and that it worked.
Yeah.
But like we figured all this stuff out and we did that together, which was really cool. Like I just recently thought about this that week because, we're used to planning the podcast, but presenting in front of people, we couldn't edit ourselves in front of people. Like it was really cool that we did that.
So successful about it too is that each of us broke off what parts we were going to do alone, together as a team, who was going to lead this, and we could rely on each other for whatever we needed. But we each got to bring forward something that nobody else had to worry about, that everybody else could just focus on their part. And I think that probably added to all of our anxiety, because I'm like, oh my God, I've got the blinders on about this effing game, which has video, which has audio, but I have no idea what chord Jamie's bringing. So I had to have my own systems. Like, I think we probably overworked a couple things and over anxious, because like I couldn't communicate with you because I was winging it too. You couldn't communicate with me because we didn't know the answers, but we both carried the weight of like making sure that could be captured, recorded, whatever. And then because it was, and we all peaked, I mean, it was just awesome. It was awesome.
Well, we also had no clue what we were all doing really so it all worked out. Yeah. We all had new elements of it. Jen's really great because she's done a lot of trade shows and stuff, so she could give us tips on things, but this was like a podcast at the same time, so she doesn't know about that, we don't, so it's amazing that it worked out, and that I'm just proud of us because we figured that out. Like,
I can barely find the link to log on every Monday. I'm certainly not gonna do that. But the other thing, Jamie, or I think it was you, Jamie, that said this when we were all chatting before, or when you were editing it, how it was almost like having that immediate reaction from people. Like even when we were sitting there, when we say something, we don't usually have people laugh back at what we're saying, like live, you know?
Yeah,
So
that was
that was
really
like
cool.
a little, I mean, that was just so different. And I mean, we're not all criers. Some of us at the table cry a little more. Some of us are huggers, you know, it is what it is. But to have that immediate reaction from people that were, you know, right there. And also for me, like I remember looking up and seeing people standing because there was no seating left. It was
Yeah, the
literally
room was
standing
packed.
only. And that was like, wow, you know, it was just like, this is amazing. This room is packed.
And they stayed. It wasn't like standing room really in the beginning. And then like you're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Yeah,
It was really fun. We did
Yeah,
a
so
good.
we were told 80 people, and we're like, maybe there'll be 50.
This is
And
so
then-
funny because you guys keep saying this. You've said it, and
Well, that's what, but
Jamie
that's
said
what
it.
we were told. We were told
No,
several
but I
times
mean,
by,
like about the numbers. You're like, we
Yeah.
didn't think people were gonna come. Me and Rachel were like, people are gonna show up. Everyone
Well,
will show
I
up.
mean,
It'll
back
be
in the
fine.
beginning, Rachel was also saying the same thing with the way that it was set up, where like there was this big break. People could be going out for dinner. They might not make it back in time for like the start of the podcast.
Hey, I will say personally, after a long day like that, and then a dinner break for a long time, I probably would have gone to a restaurant and been back an hour late. So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
just saying,
what I probably would have.
I wasn't coming at you, Kimmy. I'm just saying,
Oh, no,
I
I
always
no.
thought people were gonna come back. I was
I
faithful
didn't-
that people would show up for
I
us,
was just saying that
for
like
you guys at least. And I
people
don't know
who
about
ran
me,
it told us they expected 80 people.
Yeah.
And then they put seats out for 120 just in case.
Yeah.
And then we had at least 20 people standing in the back and a side room filled with people. It was just a lot more than
Yeah.
See, I thought people would be in line at the taco truck because quite frankly, a taco over us, I don't know, it'd be dicey.
So it was crazy when we walked down and like we like peeked in the room and they're like, oh, the room's full. I didn't go in the room until we walked in and I'm like, whoa, the room's full.
Yeah.
It felt very warm. It like there was like, it was so full of people. It was amazing.
It was so
I
full
love
of
that
people.
stuff. It was fun.
It was
It
so
was so
different
fun.
too, like talking about our children and each other to people, as opposed to like just even though obviously we're talking to an audience when we record the podcast, but it really more feels like we're talking to each other. And this was such a different experience where it's like you were just looking at the people, they were watching, they were listening. So it's like, you know, when I'm talking about Alyssa, I'm talking about Alyssa to a room full of people. Like I've never had that experience before. So that was like, I thought that was really cool.
I watched myself back a lot in the video. I watched all of us and we were all pretty focused on each other. Like we were because we're so used to just, you know, listening to each other. And I think for me being live, like I was in between Kimmy and Tab. So I felt safe. Like I could watch her. But when I would glance in the audience, like if I was crying or Rachel was crying, I mean, that doesn't happen all that often with Rachel Flanagan, but you know, on the off chance, there were people crying, like, or, you know, people laughing hysterically.
I think what the girls are trying to say and what we feel so deeply is we know we connect with people and that people connect with us.
Yeah.
Whether that's this point or that point. But the thing that I came away with is that it isn't always some big, profound piece of our story. It's the fact that I said adopted one time. Jamie said grumpy one time. Tab said, mentioned a grief episode. Jen mentioned travel. Kim mentioned, I didn't know my daughter would be an inspiration. Like, these are big and little parts of the thing that we said. And what happens is that those sentences strike people like electricity when it's the thing that they need to hear or when it's paralleling their story, and to actually feel the energy of the room go. When I said like, oh, my daughter believes that it's her job to change the world with a hug, and the room goes, oh, and I'm like, I know it. Oh my God.
My favorite part, and like I would say the first like audience reaction was your first question. Like my question, I went and it was like, does your son know he's autistic? Blah, blah. And I answered mine. And then yours was like a really similar question. And you were like, well, and the whole room already knew silly. So they all immediately laughed before. And it was like the first like huge reaction, I feel like, to anything. I loved it so much because it was so rewarding.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the first time we were like, oh, like we knew
look,
there were
there's
people in the room.
this room.
Yeah, but there was like, you know, like they were into it and in this room and they knew us. And that, you know, I know not everyone in that room probably knew us, and hopefully we got some new listeners from that. Hello, if you're new, but like people that knew us were in that room. And like at that first table, we had like Lori Hillman was there and Rachel Lack, and I could see Renee standing in the room. Like friends of ours that we've met throughout like our journey together of the 5 of us. And it was like so cool to have them and to have new people. I just love it.
I know.
I met a lot of new people this year. I met so many new people this year. But you know what's interesting? Like, I think you said it, and it's like with us, when you go back and you see Renee, it's like, oh, hey, friend. Like, it doesn't seem like a year has passed because we see each other's faces on the internet every day. You know, it just feels very familiar when we saw Julia. I mean, it just seems like, hey, girl, saw you last weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we started the weekend with a bunch of our friends that we've had on the podcast at a Blog Squad lunch, which I just want to say was so funny because
what did we do before our Blog Squad lunch, Rachel?
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's jump to Hilda. I'm so sorry. I mean, there was lots of stuff that happened before this Blog Squad lunch, but I'm bringing up my agenda over here because I wanted to hit the points. Okay, so before Friday midday, let's start at the beginning, rewind. This year, we met with our homegirl Hilda again, which is the most extraordinary Woodbury, Minnesota photographer with an autistic son and an extraordinary assistant named Michelle Teresa. I only know that because I called her Teresa and it turns out to be her middle name. And she met us at a new location, which was awesome. If you're in Minnesota this year or you're coming back next year, you're catching this up because you're coming to our retreat, which is what I'm hoping comes from all of this. Go to the Freight House people. It's great.
Best French fries and ranch the whole trip.
Water.
Ranch was so good.
So good.
So good.
Gosh darn it. So good.
And then we had Ricky, our like the main fella there. Tabs, he was a dreamboat to work with, but then did we both hug him at the end?
I think so.
Well, let's be honest, there was one server that did not enjoy our 5 company people.
She did not.
She was not happy we were there, which I don't know why. We were not in her way.
I probably know why.
Bent out of shape. Like she was bent
saw
out
us
of
on the
shape.
camera, looking at pouring the alcohols behind the bar.
We did not pour the alcohol. We did not pour that.
I know it's like a fake.
I was not behind the bar.
They were the Freight House was nice because they opened up the restaurant early for us. We thank them for that. It was a fun time.
It was a good time. This year, instead of our first color scheme, we went with a different one. I'm sure this will be revealed by the time this episode comes out.
Let's see. Not sure about the choices, but we'll see.
We'll see. I think
it looked good.
Great.
And I didn't see
my eyes were crossed. I don't know how much work Hilda's got ahead of her. I think she's gonna regret that decision. We'll see. We'll see.
I look like
I can do it if she can.
It's gonna be great. Following the Freight House, we did a little sound check situation. And then we went straight to the tavern. And this is one of my favorite parts because prior to the Blog Squad lunch, I was thinking, isn't this glorious? This is going to be like a clash of all the Minnesota moms that I love, with all the guests that we've had on, with all of the writer friends that we want to have on, all in one place. And we get there, and sure enough, all those people are sitting there. But on a huge round table on one side is all my Minnesota writer friends. And then at a big, huge rectangle in another spot was all the other people that have been on our podcast. And then suddenly we find ourselves at a table for 5.
That was the funniest part.
Well, we were so
disappointed I didn't eat there.
But I really like the food at the Freight House, so I don't feel too bad. But and I ate there again later.
Best ranch and fries ever.
I mean, we weren't worried, but we were like, man, we're not gonna have as much time together this trip because we're super busy. And so it was just really funny that like we made sure we had our lunch after our photo shoot so we could be together. And then we go to this other location to be at a group lunch and we're sat together.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, hi, we want to be with everyone.
Yeah, like just us, not just together with other people. It was just
yeah, we didn't look very inclusive. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, we would have been. We tried to be. We did not try to table for 5R5. Anyway, so then we did that. Following that, we had like a little moment, I feel like. And then we went to Kate's for her VIP event, which was, I would say, as awesome as last year. Last year, we all fangirled on the Momcation first episode about being in the place where she records the things. We weren't fangirling about Kate, but it was suddenly weird to be in her kitchen. And it's weirder that everything is flip-flopped. This year, I felt like we knew just where to be. We knew the drinks were going to be too strong. And so we just showed up ready to party.
We knew where the corners were, where to hide out, where the cool areas were by those windows. That's where it's coolest because there's like a million people in our house.
Yeah.
That was fun. But everything that we did for me went by incredibly fast. Each chunk of an event, like even though we had so much packed in, like so much was packed into Friday. And then all of a sudden Tabs and I were in bed at 10 o'clock. Like, you know what I mean?
I was thankful we
Oh,
went
I
to
was
Not
bed
together.
early.
That came out wrong. You know what I mean?
They were
We were
roommates.
just at the hotel waiting for pizza for a long, long time.
She gave
That was
up.
that was the
she left
3-hour
us
pizza
flatbread.
wait, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then you guys got the bar pizza or whatever
Oh my God.
it wasn't the right
Listen,
pizza.
the thing that reminded me about from our first episode that had me rolling today is that in our first year, we were moaning on the first episode about the waitress, which I'm doing sign language, but not on the episode. And I literally was so grossed out by her service that I wrote her a handwritten tip to go make some coffee when 6 of your customers asked for it. And she showed up again this year.
Yeah.
But the people outside of that Grumpalump who got a little better, she's like a fine wine, I guess. She's aging, getting better with time. The rest of them were incredible.
Outstanding from the front
Incredible.
desk to Mimi, who runs the show with one arm because the other one's in a sling,
Yeah.
to the
Yes.
guy of all trades who is not the
Sean.
head of IT.
Oh,
for
that
the
guy.
record.
No one.
Jennifer, the bartender.
Jennifer, the bartender. I mean, the whole hotel. And to the listeners who weren't there, we took over the Sheraton Woodbury. I mean, we took it over. So
Mhm.
And to that waitress's credit, it's probably because we were there last year and none of the employees seemed very happy. I'm guessing it was under new management or new people. And everyone was just so friendly and like the front desk guy was like so nice. And every time we came down for something, he's like, you ladies are going to be late. Because he saw like the big group leave. And then like me and Kimmy and Bree would leave like 10 minutes later. He's like, and I was like, you know what? We're fashionably late. But everyone was so friendly there. I loved it.
yeah.
Yep, it was so good.
Last year was like the tail end of the pandemic also. So like, I feel like they weren't really prepared to have so many people, even though it was not
People,
anywhere
yes.
near as many people as this year. I don't think they were prepared to have, like, I just don't think they had enough staff in the kitchen. I mean, at one point, one of the nights, the restaurant was like completely closed because they didn't have staff. And it was just like a weird.
Still recovering.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, it was the tail end of the pandemic and still struggling to get staff and, you know, whatever else. Yeah.
So much different from last year. And we've mentioned this, but this year, then Saturday was all at that hotel. So I think the first chance that everybody kind of had together, there was a morning breakfast, but then Kate and Amanda sort of shared their goals for the weekend and shared a little bit about what got them there. Then Mary Barbera went. And I enjoyed speaking with her afterwards because we have had so many people ask about our process of a podcast and sort of our process of like bringing our message to the people. And so it was fun to talk to Mary about how her business has changed, both with podcasting and now going back into in person because she's done so much online stuff. From there, Lisa Candera spoke, and I actually missed that one. I think, was that when we were all talking with Adrian?
I think so. Yeah. Cause I also missed that.
I was in with Lisa to get like content, and you guys, I'm pretty sure we're all talking to Adrian.
Yeah.
So I saw it. It was really great. And we had just had her on the podcast. It was a lot of the similar stuff, but it was really cool to see a room full of caregivers hear her message, because we all know how great it is. And when she did her Q&A at the end, so many people were asking questions because it was like, what is this woman all about? So if you haven't listened to our episode with her, make sure you go back and listen to that in our expert series, because she's pretty awesome.
She is awesome.
She was just as awesome in person.
Mm-hmm.
She really,
But
she's.
we'll get to who I fangirled over hard in a second.
So after Lisa, we had a brief lunch, and then it was Lori Hellman's turn. And
A little bit.
I
That
mean,
was too.
all 5 of us were in that room from beginning to end. And I think I felt as many emotions as Celie does in one day. I was proud of her. I was proud of Skylar. I was sobbing for them. I was loving for them and hoping for them and celebrating for them. I mean, it was like an exhausting hour because we just got to like fast
It was
forward.
a roller
her mom
coaster of
journey.
emotions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Her,
it was fantastic.
her presentation, her speech was
Fantastic.
incredible. Yeah, she was a great speaker.
Yeah.
I think, we talk so often to Kim, who is further in this like arc of time in autism or alongside autism. And so for me, like the immediate takeaway of Lori is this long life lived and like all these things tried and this perspective that she's gotten, but her real essence of her speech and her message and even of her book that I've listened to and fast forward since we've gotten home, is about forgiving yourself and loving yourself and being okay with what you have to give and
not blaming yourself.
And all of that. And it's just so healing. You think in your analytical mind or you're in your heart that you're hearing this message about like the length of time or their family's journey and how far they've come. And really this, like, you're doing it, you're killing it, you're slaying is running right through. It's just powerful.
Well, in her interview with us, she talked about how the two things she doesn't really talk about, but she did in the talk, was single parenting and seizures, and how that she got the most comments from those two things after she spoke, even though it's like something that she doesn't generally talk about, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You know, the most questions about it. I loved her. And she's just fantastic human being in person, like fun and warm and kind and lovely.
I think right along that same vein is Adrienne Wood. You guys are meeting her for the first time in person. And it's crazy how many people I've been pimping and promoting this Adrienne Wood that I love for a very long time. And so many people have come up to me like, she's everything. She's everything you said. And like, I know she's just as genuine and hysterical
and fun. Fun packed. She's so fun.
We had her on the podcast kind of early on, right? Was it kind of early?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Yeah.
Gosh, that seems like so long ago now.
I know it. Also, Wendy Anderson was at the weekend, which was great. It was nice to hear from another special needs mom that doesn't necessarily have the same lane, traveled as we do.
Yeah. Her story was really interesting and cool. With a lot of us, like, we all tell our diagnosis stories of our children and hear from each other, and like we can recognize a lot of things, but her journey to an autism diagnosis came after a lot of other things. And so her journey to get there, I'm like, oh man, I'm exhausted by my journey, but I'm really exhausted by your journey. So she was really cool. And she's an awesome lady. She does it all. Like, seriously, I was like, I'm tired for you. I need to do it.
So good. And then, so after Wendy, there was that dinner break that we talked about. Then the table for 5 crammed the house. I mean, you guys, we were fantastic. All the people that wrote in the questions were awesome. I feel like we've not answered those same points before, which I love, because I feel like we get lots of the same kind of stuff, like a different phrasing. It was dope. And then we had 109 people submit to our survey for the game, which allowed us to like take that further than we've had games. I mean, I was laughing. Jamie, I said
that game seriously. I mean, that was fun to see as well, as how kind of invested each table was. That was a lot of fun.
Those women were not messing around.
I was trying really hard to listen so that I wouldn't miss something that I should like flip over. So I barely engaged with the room during the game. I was just like, okay, do it. Okay, don't mess this up,
I made the mistake of going out there and they were like, make sure she knows that we said this. And I was like, okay, I'm just collecting names for the raffle.
Well, it was funny how many people answered the same. Like, I didn't expect that.
Yes.
So many people, like all the tables, 1 or 2 of the questions, like all answered the same. And I was like, oh.
Tabitha supported me with telling me what to write down for the answers. So it worked out perfect. Be right on track with that.
I said one time, I go, erase your answers and write another one.
My one job.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Oh yeah, it was so fun.
And then that party, and then talk about the party. I mean, talk about the party. And actually the funniest part in that, and someone made the reel, is when Rachel was not frantically, but like looking underneath for something, she bumped the cupcakes that we had gotten Kate. So the candles tipped over. So then we closed the podcast and said happy birthday to her. And Rachel was presenting her with a cupcake. It was supposed to have a candle. So Rachel just holds the lighter lit. Kate's like, this is so trashy. I love it. So funny. And then she blew it. And then something spectacular happened. It was so fun. So Rachel, I'll let you tell the story.
Oh my gosh. So right after the table for 5 went, the Rachel Lack and some of the other moms that we know kind of worked with Amanda to throw this surprise party. And so for Kate for her 40th birthday. So suddenly, after the longest birthday song of life, which was like crazy, this wall shot away, and then there was a DJ and a disco ball behind.
Can we talk about how this wall shot away? So no one was showing up
shot away
to take down the wall to open the wall. So probably
I've never heard so
15
many
moms
verses.
from the
of-
back of the house climbed onto the walls and basically put the walls away. I
Well,
was
hold on, they
watching this-
tried. It took Mimi with one arm,
Oh,
the
yeah,
other in
Mimi
a
came.
sling,
Yes.
to give it its final push in.
Yes. But it was just like the resources
As the happy
showing up,
birthday song
showing
is
up in
playing.
the longest happy birthday song. Thank God it was
Ever.
long because
I
it
mean-
took a long time to get those walls down.
It was so funny because you just see, we just look in the back of the room and there's like, I think Kate was the one who drew my attention to it. There's literally like women crawling the wall. I'm like,
Yes, crawling
someone's
on
gonna
the
get
walls. It was crazy. But that's a special needs mom at its finest. You got
Yeah.
a problem? We'll come up with the resources. You got a wall to
Give me
take
the
down?
hook.
We'll get that
We'll
wall
get it down.
I
Yeah.
loved watching that.
And then
That was like, I mean, I know that you guys were all there, so I know, but being in that moment and like looking around and, you know, people were doing a conga line or whatever it's called thing
Yeah.
through there. And like, it was just,
I mean, I totally missed that. I
Fun.
don't know where I was.
that
I
was
missed the conga
so
too. I must
fun.
have
Not
been
that,
really
Amanda DeLuca, if you're listening, you made me get in that line, but just all of it, the dancing, new kids came on, Jamie was doing her thing. Like, it was just fun. Kimmy
Yeah.
was dancing.
Timmy,
Yeah.
finally. Well, I go in the room. We're out in the hall, me and Jen. I was like, "Are you gonna dance?" And she's like, "Ah." And I was like, "Where's Tabitha?" I don't know where Tabitha was in the beginning. I was like, "I'm gonna going in there dancing by myself." I mean, there were other moms dancing, but I just didn't know any of them well enough to like dance with them. And then finally, I found Tabitha, and I was like, "Okay, you'll dance with me. I know it." So we went and danced, and then slowly, everyone. Rachel came back. Kimmy came back. Jen was dancing, and the new kids is really what got Jen. And then by the end of
Oh
it,
my God.
so fun all together.
Listen, I want you to know, I don't think I flipped those candles over. And if there's a reel of me actually flipping the candles, that's great, because I'd love to see the evidence of this. But the evidence that Jamie caught on one moment of the dance floor that absolutely gives me life is when the first few bars of the new kids start playing. And Jen, like, there's this jolt that moves through her, and Jamie caught this whole thing on video. It's like the best 17 seconds of the weekend. Do you
I
remember
missed
this,
that
Jen?
too. I really don't know where I was for any of these things.
I didn't
We're in
see
the
it. I
back
only
of the
saw
room.
the video, but the video gives me life.
Chatting
I
with
think you were in
Lori.
the,
I
in the
think.
back of the room talking.
No,
Yeah.
like I didn't hear. I wasn't there for that because I did not hear the new kid song at all. So I
Oh.
wasn't like present for that. I don't know where I was. I might have been at the other bar.
Best song of the
But I
night.
did-
With
I
Chris.
did go up and change my shirt, so like it could have happened then too. But like I see these videos and I'm like, where was I? I don't know.
Best song of the night.
So funny. So it turns out that Bree, our DJ of the night, was also a caregiver, which is something that we were able to recap before. But it's just so cool how magnetic and universal the energy felt,
Mhm.
and that it just even carried over to all of the people wanting to help us enjoy our time, you know?
Yeah.
And then they played my
Infectious.
theme song at the end. I mean, that was just
Kim was living her best life. She got to play the Family Feud the same day as her theme song played right there on the DJ dance floor.
oh my god.
What was your
It
theme
was
song?
fun.
Penny?
Starships. But
Oh, okay.
but it's like my family's theme song. So like it really actually is.
That's what, and I said this on Amanda's thing too. They ended the night, the DJ who was very sweet, and it sounds like someone kept asking, according to Amanda. She
Yeah.
ended the night with Cotton Eye Joe, and I literally said, I was like, this is one of the most disappointing things that has ever happened.
Yeah.
I will tell you the most disappointing thing to me is that I requested Tupac and they
Oh.
played an edited version of
Ooh.
Tupac.
Yeah, that's sad.
Highly disappointed in that.
Moms weren't ready.
They were ready. Are you
The
kidding
ro-
me?
the
That room was
moms were
filled
ready.
with
We're ready.
30 to 40-year-olds, mostly would be my guess of the age bracket. They have heard a Tupac unedited version in their lifetime.
Listen.
They were ready by then too, because they were all going.
We don't need edited
This-
versions. Have they heard this podcast? I mean, come on.
Adrian cracks me up every time I see.
Oh my God.
gosh, her
It looks
dancing.
like she breaks a hip in one of Kate's reels, and it's like gives me life. I love
Kate
her
said
so
that.
much.
Kate said that she took a video of her and she's like, I just caught her breaking a hip. She said that to me. I was standing right next to her.
I was
Yeah,
done.
she
I'm just
danced
dying.
most of the night.
Yeah, she did. She was getting down.
You know, I have to say there was this early part where where the birthday girl doesn't like, she'd like to make the speech and check it off her list. She doesn't want to be in front of the room. We know this of Kate. So she was not thrilled to be sitting through the 17 minutes of Happy Birthday song with all the verses that even went polka. That birthday
never
song
heard that song in my life, and it was so long.
I do think that's probably
I
why the
don't know
moms
why.
jumped into action and scaled the wall.
They're like,
Just
"We
to
gotta
make the Happy
stop this
Birthday song
birthday."
end.
Driven crazy.
I've heard this. One of
But
those
I'll
moms
just say-
probably heard that on YouTube on repeat 1,000 times.
Even she was delighted to be at that party and on that dance floor. It wasn't just these moms that needed to cut loose that haven't had a girls' weekend that like were like a little bit into the shots and maybe like little moms gone wild. It was everybody found what they needed at that dance party.
Well, even like Lisa, like all these women who we love and they present themselves so well and they're so much smarter than us. They were like having so much fun, and not all of them were dancing, but they were like hanging out. Like I went to the lobby at one point and Lisa's like, Jamie, I'm gonna order us some pizza. And I was like, okay. And she's having fun in lobby. Lori was in the back talking to Jen, like the whole, like it was just so cool. Like, and to Kate's credit, her and Amanda through this huge event, they had a big day the next day. They stayed the whole time.
They
and
did.
Yeah.
it was so fun. It was just, we talked about this a little bit with Amanda, but it was so cool how like even the speakers were part of the retreat. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to present to you and then go back to my room because I'm just here to like present and relax. They like hung out with everyone. It was just so cool because you just felt like everyone was on the same level. It was awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was like, I remember thinking like, there's no way from 8 a.m. to 11:30 at night. Like
Kimmy was out there. She closed down the dance floor.
yeah, and then I'm like,
make it.
I'm like, it's already over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. That's the
And
best
that's
day of
so-
my life.
I mean, the
Sunday-
alcohol might have helped with that part a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The Sunday venue too was gorgeous.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
Really.
loved that. So last year we were packed into the venue. There
As
was
though
like,
it was Saturday night table for 5, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, you couldn't even like move out a chair hardly in the year before. And then this year it was just like open and all this space and you could maneuver around and it was so beautiful on the inside, even though we were all completely exhausted by that point.
Well, last year,
Sunday.
I'll tell you, there was a point during one of the speeches I had to go to the bathroom, and it was like I felt so embarrassed because I had to like crawl through, which they did, which is amazing for this event that it's doing so well, and the rooms are packed and they're growing out of like they grew out of their space last year, they're growing out of their space this year. That's amazing. But this year the venue was so much bigger and it was beautiful. I took Hilda aside and had her take some pictures of me in some of the places, and she took a few more pictures of us because it was so beautiful there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
really
beautiful.
gorgeous. Yeah.
I had the best Bloody Mary. You know, you guys know I get really excited when I come to the States because we don't have Bloody Marys in Canada. We have a drink called a Caesar. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I like really spicy stuff. And the girl, one of the female bartenders said about the male bartender that he's waited his whole life for this moment because he makes his own special concoction in the back. And so he brought it out and he tasted it to see how spicy he was. And then not on my spoon, he had his own little dip spoon that he switched out. But it was like the best Bloody Mary I'd ever had. It was so good. Made my whole trip.
You know, I had a heck of a good cocktail there too. I just told this fella in a like sexy bartender apron that I wanted something fruity. And he made
Is that
me
your
this.
pink drink?
Yes, it tasted like that ambrosia that the Lutherans serve with the big scoop at this after Sunday.
It was
What's that with the ambrosia has like Cool Whip, pistachios, pudding, and then pineapple. I don't know, but that drink tasted like it was delish.
We're not bartenders. That's
No.
And I'm
No.
then you called.
JX.
I was gonna say RX. No, it's not the
JX
RX. Don't go to the RX.
Still water.
Go to the JX.
Sunday was amazing. I'll tell you, and I mean, the 5 of us all know that we left in staggered situation because Jen's flight, and then next was Kim and Tabs. And I don't know, Jen, again, I will say this one last time. This is not a reflection of your shoes and the volume, but each click clack of your shoes felt like a pouring out of my heart. Like the fact that we were leaving, it was like over with every footstep. And then I had an emotional breakdown, which is probably because I was just anxious about earlier, like speaking just before that. And then I had to leave. I followed Kim and Tabitha out of that building like, Jamal, I got to go right now. I have got to leave this building. It was like so much emotion for so many days. I couldn't take it another second.
And I was gonna say your speech was so beautiful, and I cried. And
Yeah, I did.
I got to hear that before I left. I got to hear that.
Man,
And
I
the
had an
introduction.
opportunity to tell the people just how much the Coops Troop experience has meant to me. And obviously, as a Table for Five listener, you know that these 4 women have changed my life a million ways. And you know that we all write together, and you know that Celie's had this crazy path, and we found Chris, who you also know, through the Coops Troop. So I got to summarize that, and I didn't fall over in a blubbering pile of tears until Adrian Wood's speech, when I was sitting behind Kim, and I must have been making the racket like somebody that I know was drowning from the Titanic in front of me, or so, like this awful tragedy was unfolding right in front of me. Kim kept turning around like, do you need a tissue? Or what's happening to her back there? Are you going to make it? Over emotional.
There was several people who said, I can't look at Rachel Flanagan or I'll cry.
Amanda DeLuca said that the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. I can't look at her.
Yeah. Don't make eyes.
It was a beautiful weekend. It really was. Like it was a different feel, obviously, because we were doing different things. I loved what we did. I just loved interviewing the people when they came off. I thought that was so fun. I like that side of it.
Another great thing about having 5 of us, I don't know if any one of us could have done that on our own. Like, because we all have, like even how the podcast was going to go, or people showing up, or all this stuff, we could all be like, okay, you're freaking out about this. It's fine. You're freaking out about this. It's fine. Like we all had like our things we were worried about, and someone else would be like, oh, I'm not worried about that. Like right before we went on, me and Taz were like, I'm kind of anxious. And then we're like, what? You're anxious? You're fine. And then we were like, okay, let's just go do it. It was just like a great balance. And that's what, I don't know.
I feel like that. Like we had this storm through it energy instead of like hold each other back, because at least one of us was confident about each thing.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then the trek home for everyone.
I was really excited about the podcast though. Like, like
we were so prepared, the most prepared we've probably ever been for anything. So
yeah.
We killed it.
We brought answers.
Our step up is answers.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
I love the cue cards, James, or the cards that we could write.
I
in
know,
them.
those are so nice.
Loved that.
Yeah,
that was fun. And then actually, so I had to leave early, so I missed from Rachel on. And when I was pulling up in my Uber to the airport, I got a text from United and they had canceled my flight. So then I went spiraling. Anyway, I got home. The beautiful lady at United not only got me on a little bit faster flight, she upgraded me both ways into economy plus. So I was in the bigger seats, which was amazing. So it all worked out. It was fine. But holy cats.
It was
to get that text.
Add onto the drama.
When you're desperate to get home, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was the only one that stayed. Well, Rachel lives there, but I was the only one that stayed into Monday because I stayed back so I could edit the podcast and not have to do that at home when I had just gotten home with the kids. And I was like, I don't know how you guys all did it, like rushing out, because I was like, okay, I went back to my hotel and packed, edited, went to bed, and then went to the airport. But I think we were all ready to go home. It was a lot, but it was really good.
I mean, I missed essentially even most of what Kate said, but that's so far. It's like such a long, even though Minnesota, if they may have had these direct flights, it's only 3.5 hours, but they don't have them. So it's like a 9-hour travel day and a stop. So it's like I either left then or literally not until the next day, so it's like, ugh. But anyway.
That's how it works out. But it was all good.
Private jet next year.
I was saying to Amanda, and I had told Kate this too, I was like, but that's what we have to do. You have to cram it into a couple days because of special needs parents or caretakers. That's all you got. Like you can't be on for a long time. So I was like, shoved it all in. By Sunday afternoon, everyone was out of there. They were good. No one lingered because they're like, we got it all done. We got to get home. So
yeah,
it was nice because I ended up running into some moms at the airport, which didn't happen last year. So it was just like really weird. And then me and my husband had dinner with them. And that was nice. That was like a quiet time where you could actually talk and hear. And that's a lot of the problem. It's like, it's so hard because it's like, you can't hear at any of these things either. So it's like, it makes it really hard to for me anyways, to talk to people, but that was really nice. And we talked about Renee earlier, and me and her on Sunday, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we didn't even get to talk this year. And she's like, I know. And then I ended up running into her at the airport and having dinner with her. So that was kind of nice too. And then, we've got into Boston. Tons of flights were being canceled left and right. We lucked out. We had to wait an hour for our luggage, which isn't a big deal. But when you get in at midnight, it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if anyone ever flies United, but I learned this, that if you get good service and you send in United a compliment, that employee actually gets a cash bonus. I didn't know that until after. this woman saved my whole trip. I wish I would have gotten her name because she was amazing at getting me out of there. So I'm very
I thought that
disappointed.
all the people at the airport so nice. Like,
Yes, they were very nice.
Even when our thing was over, like I made a joke and I was like, yeah, I go, who goes and buys tools when they're on vacation? My husband, that's who. And he was dying laughing. Like,
Yeah.
they're not like that in Boston or Orlando, let me tell you.
Orlando.
They don't find it funny.
Those people are like, beep, beep, McIsaacs are here. McIsaacs and MCO.
They're just so nice. They're all just so nice. It's like, it's so funny. Like, I feel
Minnesota,
like
I'm grateful that
rush,
people
you know?
had so many good moments in Minnesota because last year, you guys, I tell you what, I didn't remember it was so salty, but that episode was salt. It was.
Listen, I
shaky.
come back just for those cheesy potatoes.
We were disappointed by the Minnesota nice last year.
Yeah.
I was at least expecting fake nice last year. We didn't even
No.
get this year.
Last year, the people could give one F. Not one. Well, so the biggest takeaway for me in like the recap that we've not really discussed with other people is, but now we're just sitting at our table. Our proverbial table's back. We're in our boxes, ladies. How many people asked you guys if we're going to do a retreat?
It's a lot.
A lot.
Quite a few, yeah.
I have to say a lot. One of the questions that we didn't really have an answer to was what's our big picture? And I know just from that we're in this last series that we've planned in this big collection, I can hardly wait for our meeting and to discuss what happens next for us. Because again, you guys, I'm so proud of us.
It was amazing.
It really was
To
amazing.
be a part of it. It was amazing.
And it was really nice. The amount of people that came up to us and were like, we love your podcast. Oh my God. And they were like gushing over us. It was just so funny, you know? I just thought that was so cool.
There's a
I
lot.
actually had a lot of people say to me, I know you're not a hugger, but can I give you a hug? Because we were talking about how I don't like to be touched. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Tab, somebody came up to you about your book. Like,
Yeah, that was
it
so
just kept
sweet. Julie.
happening. Oh,
she,
when
What
Bridget
about
fangirled you,
Josephine's
Kim?
mother?
What?
Josephine's mom that was cutting a rug on the dance floor.
She
Oh,
sure
yes.
was.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, that
There was a
amazing.
couple of mom-daughter combos that just kept taking my breath.
Yeah, there
Yes,
were.
where were the ladies with the dark hair from?
Connecticut.
From
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Jamie took a piece of pizza. That was the first night.
Oh my gosh.
Other
Let's
pizza.
actually let me be real clear. We may have to recut that first intro. We want to dedicate this episode to Melissa, who's had the cheese curds ordered on the Friday night when the food didn't come out for hours and hours and hours.
Oh my
And
gosh,
then
yes.
Melissa's cheese curds came toward our table and I go, those are mine. And Jennifer, who already remembered me by name, was like,
You're not Melissa. It was hilarious. And she walked away and gave Melissa the cheese curds. And then Melissa
And we were like this.
shared.
Oh,
And then Rachel and I went up to Melissa's table. We're like, can we have some of your cheese curds? We've been
And who's
waiting
Melissa?
45
Did we
minutes.
know her?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was one of
Melissa-
the moms.
she's one of the
okay.
incredible
Well,
moms that was
that's
there.
semi better then.
We've
was a
dedicated
random
this
Melissa.
episode to her.
So we told her we would dedicate this recap to Melissa with the cheese curds. I'm glad you remembered that, Rachel.
Yep. Hold it right out there in the end for you.
And it was
Melissa.
just like this huge joke that everybody's like, you're not Melissa.
You're not Melissa. Jennifer said it just like that too. She's like, you're not Melissa.
Oh.
Rachel's like, oh, I thought those were my
I
cheese
saw a
curds."
hot bowl of cheese curds coming at me and I'm like, that's mine.
This was after we had been waiting like 45 minutes for the cheese curds. So
Yeah.
it was
Among other
understandable.
things.
The pizza.
But listen, next year I'm going to bring my own I-9 for them. I'm just going to jump behind the counter, make a couple of cocktails, get the thing
I
moving.
almost did. I
mean,
almost made
Rachel
some
literally
cocktails
was
back
like
there.
being a cocktail waitress while she was there.
I
We're like,
couldn't
where's
handle
she
it.
going?
I almost offered. I could sling some drinks. Want me to
Yeah.
make you a Bloody Mary? You got it.
Let us back there.
Bartended and cocktail waitress all through law school and
There you go.
college. Sling some drinks. Woodbury.
Well, guys,
served
I
'em.
just want to tell you, I love you so much. I'm proud as hell of us about both what we've created and who we are and showing up for each other. That was a trifecta, not a both. And I really hope that next time we all get on a plane to arrive someplace together, that there's a little bit more R&R in there and that there's like some chill if we are not hosting the retreat. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway,
Take a
that's-
chance. Go to the retreat, people.
Go to the
Yes.
retreats, people. Find one.
Find
Find a
one.
friend.
Find
It's fine.
Thanks, everyone.
it. Don't find friends if they're hungry.
That is how you find friends. You feed them.
Oh, that's true. All right, we'll do that. Love you, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you for joining us at the table for this episode. Check out the description to find where you can sign up for our newsletter, how to become a supporter, and find links to us individually. Join us next Monday for more, and while you wait, check out our content on Facebook and Instagram. If you are enjoying the podcast, please make sure to subscribe and rate and review us wherever you listen. To contact us, you can email us at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We can't wait to sit with you again.